Good afternoon, Mr. Stavros Nicolaou. We're happy to have you here at Brics Africa Channel.
Good afternoon, Professor, and it's a great pleasure and an honor to be here with you.
Thank you very much. We are at an opportune time because even at the time of crisis, we find solutions. And we even find better solutions because we have an entity to fight against. In this changing geopolitical world and G20 in South Africa now, how does TEHA close into these other entities that are taking place in South Africa?
So firstly, let me say, let's reflect for a moment on South Africa hosting the G20 Summit. It's the first time ever an African country has hosted a G20. It's the first on African soil. It's also the first time that the African Union will be participating as a member of the G20. These are significant achievements and developments for the continent. It certainly assists in bridging this gap that exists between the wealthier nations and the less wealthy nations. And that is one of the fundamental purposes of the G20. Of course, the G20 was incepted some 16 years ago at the time of the global crisis, and it was set up to develop an economic response when there was a global economic meltdown. Now, it's continued along with that thread. It's, of course, expanded because you have a B20, a S20, a T20, a P20, etc., etc. But it hasn't lost its focus on economic development and enhancing economic growth globally. And that's what we need as an African continent. Now, we cannot do that in isolation, of course. And that is, for me, the importance of what happens this weekend in Nasrec, Johannesburg, is the opportunity to enhance partnerships. The TEHA conference that we're here, that has been arranged by House of Ambrosetti, speaks very much to a European audience and bringing Europe and Africa closer, economically speaking. But all of these things speak to a very important issue. And the important issue here is that we need to continue promoting and enhancing a strong multilateral trading system. There's, of course, great concern amongst the business community in South Africa and elsewhere. I've been very involved in the B20 meetings over the last 48 hours, and no matter which delegate I speak to, and there are a number of international delegates, whenever I speak to them, one thing is clear: they are supportive of a multilateral trading system. This polarization is not good for economic growth. It's not good for confidence. It lends itself to uncertainty, unpredictability. Markets hate uncertainty and unpredictability, as do investors. So in conclusion, two takeout points here. The first is that we host the G20 on African soil for the first time in a very interesting time where we are starting to see a fragmentation, the establishment of polarization economically and in trade terms. I think the G20 summit, under the theme of South Africa, sustainability, equity and solidarity, aims and sets out to narrow that gap. And then secondly, the European constituency here, which Ambrosetti has brought, the European businessmen, policymakers, I think all of those things are important in terms of course, supporting a multilateral trading system that benefits all economies around the world.
Well said. Speaking of multilateralism, as a member of the BRICS Business Council, where does BRICS Business Council fit in this greater picture? And what will be the role of the BRICS Business Council going forward after this G20?
BRICS is an exceedingly important, or BRICS Plus as it's now called, right, is an exceedingly important formation for South Africa and for the African continent. We're seeing seismic global economic shifts, not just geopolitical shifts. I mean, we're starting to see China overtaking the United States now in many respects with medical device and diagnostic research. So things are shifting. And as South African business, represented through the Business Council, we've always adopted a posture that we need to look at where our best economic interest lies. A country, where will we create the most jobs, where is the best economic value add, etc. And our posture is clear. It lies with the East, it lies with the West, it lies with the emerging South as well. So these are all important formations that we need to embrace. The Council's mandate is to promote and enhance trade, investment, commerce, and business between South Africa and the Brics formation, or Brics Plus formation now. And I think those are all very attractive markets moving into the future. So in conclusion, as a business council, we play the role of intermediaries, connecting business people, connecting investment opportunities, bilaterally and multilaterally speaking. And we do so on a complementary and supplementary basis. What do I mean exactly by that? If you are seeking a business partner, an economic partner, inevitably what you should be doing is looking at where your strengths lie, where does your partner's strengths lie, and how do you achieve complementarity between the two, so that at the end of the day, 1 + 1 lands up being 4. Yes. And that's what we aim to achieve as a business council. But certainly the geopolitical shifts are interesting, but so are the geo-economic shifts quite interesting.
Exactly. In conclusion, if you are to advise South Africa as a business, the private sector, advise South Africa as the public sector, partnership, what will be your words, what will be the guideline that you will say to South Africa?
I think firstly, we are working as South Africa to more closely align our economic and our foreign policy. Now, of course, there are other considerations outside of economics, yes. Okay, but bringing the two a lot closer is an important development, and I believe that is what Minister Ronald Lamola, with his DTIC, Trade and Investment Competition counterpart, Parks Tower, this is what they're aiming to do. Yes. Business needs to be embracive of that. We need to see, or we need to use economic diplomacy, as they call it, to provide these opportunities both on the continent and beyond. And I think the message to our business community here, with respect to partnerships, is what I was saying earlier. Let's identify those areas of complementarity that are going to work for two parties. We cannot be in a relationship, a partnership, a collaboration, whatever it might be, where one partner benefits at an outsized level to another partner. Those partnerships don't really sustain themselves into the future. So I think we have sectors, products, services, areas in the economy that we are competitive in. And those are the sectors that we need to take forward in any partnership or collaboration discussion.
You mentioned the collaboration between two ministers, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation and the Minister of the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. Looking at that, one of their preoccupations, specifically on the DTIC side, as population grows, as the youth dividend grows also, for the most 25 years, we have the youngest population. What would you personally advise? You have a long field. I've read your profile. You have a long field in the industry and at the leading level of the industry. How would you suggest that we infuse the youth into markets? Because it seems as if there's a tendency we keep growing a specific industries, but we don't have new centers of economic production. Our centers of economic production remain to be the old ones and almost same type of industry. How do we diversify in order to infuse and take in this dormant labor force or knowledge and skills?
I think it's an excellent question, and we talk and we reflect a lot on the continent about what we call the youth demographic or the youth dividend. So of course everyone knows, it's well recorded, that by 2050, which is a mere 25 years ago to go, 1 in 4 people on the planet will be an African, and they will be mainly young Africans. Now that can be a positive or it can be a curse. Okay. And then by the end of the century, in 75 years' time, 35% of the population, of the world's population, will be estimated to be African. So almost 1 in 4. Okay. Now, we look at this and we say, but how are we going to create meaningful jobs for this population, this demographic? And it seems at the surface quite daunting. But what we've got to focus on is 3 things. The first is on education. We have to have a well-educated youth. It cannot simply be any longer that our youth, we say to them, look, get a matric and you're fine. Okay. That's not going to make us competitive, neither as a country nor as a continent. So the mindset needs to be, first of all, we've got to improve our standards for education. Maths and the sciences are exceedingly important. If you look at the economies that are growing the fastest at the moment, it's not accidental. And here, if you look at the 6 nations that are currently top of the pile when it comes to effective education, they include China, Taiwan, Singapore, Korea, Japan. Okay. Now, where do those countries all sit? They all sit in the East.
Yes.
So what's sad is there's not one single African country that makes that list, because they're not even putting themselves forward to be included in that list. So we're not even looking at education as a competitive edge as a continent, and that's exceedingly important. So an educated youth can give us some what we call springboarding effect or leapfrogging. The second thing is artificial intelligence, AI, digitalization. Again, we can look at this one of 2 ways. We can say digitalization is an anathema because it's going to take our jobs. Okay. Or we can say, as Africa, we missed the 3rd industrial revolution, we missed the 4th industrial revolution, we daren't miss the 5th industrial revolution. And that's where the East have been able to leapfrog, in many instances, the West, because they used artificial intelligence constructively to leapfrog. Now, if you've got an educated population, we can leapfrog through artificial intelligence because we look to position it appropriately. And we have effective policies, both in our country and on the continent, to assist in industrialization, because industrialization is what causes a real multiply effect into the economy. If we do those 3 things correctly, then I think we can say the youth dividend or the youth demographic can be one that accelerates growth on our continent. There's, as you know, in South Africa, unfortunately, we're growing at a rather pedestrian rate of about 1.2%. There's some countries on the continent that are growing at 5 or 6%. There's no reason, as Professor Jeffrey Sachs said, as recently as yesterday at the B20, if we do these fundamental issues correctly, there's no reason why we can't grow at 7 or 8% as Africa. And then the youth dividend becomes a true dividend.
Yes. Thank you very much, Stavros, member of the Brics Business Council. We're happy to have you here, and thank you for your insights.
Thanks very much for having me.